We were really thrilled at a new opportunity that opened up actually last summer, and that is continuing on a permanent basis, specifically for rural areas. So in eligible rural areas, providers, again, whether they be schools, rec centers, churches, a variety of nonprofit entities can do this. They can provide meals for pickup or even for delivery. So instead of the child having to come to a meal site every day and maybe staying there in order to receive more than one meal, parents or the kids themselves can now come and pick up meals, maybe 3 days worth, maybe a week's worth, whatever the structure is. So they can really overcome some of those challenges that have limited the SUN program from operating at meeting all the needs of rural areas in the past.
Hello, and welcome to a very special summer Rural Impact episode. I'm Michelle Rathman. Now, you may be wondering why we are joining you off of our routine schedule, and there is very good reason to do that. While I was in studio recording today, I had the very immediate and I think really important opportunity to touch base with Cindy Long. And Cindy Long is the administrator of the United States Department of Agriculture. That's the USDA, in case you're not familiar with the acronym. And Cindy is over the Food and Nutrition Service Division. And we talked today about the critically important summer food programs that are available, opening up for millions more rural children across this country. And because we know that hunger does not take a break just because school is out, again, we want to jump on this opportunity to have this important conversation because there's something that you can do immediately if you or you know somebody who's in need of food assistance this summer. So with that said, here now is my conversation with USDA FNS Administrator Cindy Long. Cindy Long, Administrator of the USDA Food and Nutrition Services, thank you so much for joining us on the Rural Impact. We are, and I mean it when I say, very appreciative for your time and that you could join us today. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Michelle. It is a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Well, I thank you for the reach out because as I mentioned to you earlier before we started today, this is something that we have been covering in the past. And I wish it was something that we could say that we cover and then poof, it goes away, but we know that's not true. And I want to start off by sharing something that came out of the National Center for Health Statistics. And that is a division, of course, the Department of Health and Human Services. And I want to note that these stats, and I know you'll have new stats for us. They are a few years old, but nonetheless, here it goes. And that is that you'd have to be kind of living under a rock. That's my commentary, to not know that children experience an increased burden related to food insecurity. And according to the Children Living in Households that Experience Food Insecurity, which was a 2019-2020 report, 12.9% of children in non-metropolitan areas live in a food insecure household. And according to Child Hunger in Rural America reports that 84% of counties in the U.S. that experience the highest levels of childhood food insecurity are rural. And of course, the USDA ERS has their own reports. And so all that is to say, summer break is well underway and food insecurity doesn't have a season. So I wonder if you could talk to us about how parents and caregivers might be able to alleviate some of their concerns and navigate and gain access to nutrition assistance program this summer and how the USDA through this program is working to make that happen.
Yeah. And, Michelle, I really appreciate you starting out by framing this by reminding us all the challenge that we do face around food insecurity, particularly around children, particularly around rural areas in this country, even though we are by any reasonable measure a very wealthy country. And the thing that I want to really add to that is that there is both data and common sense tells us that risk of food insecurity for children gets more significant during the summer because on an average day, about 30 million children receive school meals. And many of those children get them for free or at a reduced price. So just think about that, up to as many as 30 million children who rely on schools for lunch, often breakfast, often sometimes even a snack or an after-school supper, rely on this every single day that they're in school, and suddenly school is over and their families are faced with the challenge and the stress of trying to figure out how they are going to make up for those nutritious and significant number of meals that their kids receive. So the good news right now is that we have more tools in our toolbox to combat that increased risk of summer hunger. And I can tell you a little bit about that.
I do, because we know that you say it very well. And for someone who has been close to educators, we know that sometimes, sending children home with peanut butter and jelly sandwiches over the weekend is to supplement. But when you're talking about 3 meals a day at best, for 7 days a week, or at least the 5 days a week that the school meals right now that are so incredibly important for us to maintain. But so let's talk about the Sun Meal programs. Of course, everything that has to do with the government. It has an acronym, which I like this one because it signifies that it's bright. So talk about Sun Meals. Who is eligible? I think that's the most important thing to cover. How do families access these meals who are in immediate need right now?
Absolutely. And I'm really glad to know that you like the SUN acronym. It stands for Summer Nutrition Programs. And we love the fact that we can give it a little symbol that portrays the fact that it's a summertime set of programs. And what we really have now is a set of programs. So historically, for several decades now, we've had a summer meal program that we're calling Sun Meals that would allow folks to serve kids when they came together during the summertime for recreational or educational programming. So whether it was at a rec center, maybe at a church camp, maybe a school program, they could come together, do whatever the activities they had, and they could have a breakfast and a lunch, or maybe one or the other, depending on the program. And that was a great program for the kids that it reaches. And it continues to be a good program for kids that it reaches. But the problem that we've known about for a long time is that program has only ever been able to reach about 1 in 6 of the kids that rely on free meals during the school year. And it's because, they're just not a captive audience the way that they are during the school year. And for many places, particularly true in rural areas, the transportation that parents need to get their kids to site, work schedules, just logistics, it just doesn't work for the meals to be tied to the kids coming together. So we were really thrilled at a new opportunity that opened up actually last summer, and that is continuing on a permanent basis, specifically for rural areas. So in eligible rural areas, providers, again, whether they be schools, rec centers, churches, a variety of nonprofit entities can do this. They can provide meals for pickup or even for delivery. So instead of the child having to come to a meal site every day and maybe staying there in order to receive more than one meal, parents or the kids themselves can now come and pick up meals, maybe 3 days worth, maybe a week's worth, whatever the structure is. So they can really overcome some of those challenges that have limited the SUN program from operating at meeting all the needs of rural areas in the past. We're calling this program SUN Meals to Go.
Yes.
And you asked Michelle about who's eligible.
Right.
These two programs, SUN Meals and SUN Meals to Go, are actually, the eligibility is actually based on the location of the program. So they're targeted to areas that have a reasonably high concentration of lower income kids. So if you are a nonprofit, say a YMCA, a Boys and Girls Club, a 4-H that wants to operate a program, you just need to make sure you're operating in an area that is eligible. And we have a lot of resources to help figure that out. And then you can offer meals to any child who shows up, if it's an on-site, or who comes for a delivery or a site pickup of meals.
And I will just say, I encourage you, and we'll talk about this in a moment. I'm on the website right now. I'm multitasking just a little bit, but to say this is if you go to the website that's dedicated to this, and we'll make sure that we put it in our show notes on our resources on our website, it does show you that as of June 14th, and when we're recording this is just a week after, the site finder has data for the following states. And you go through, I won't go through all of them, of course, that you can. And so there is a way to navigate this. And we know that there are, we might have some listeners where they live in communities where broadband and surfing the internet might not be easy. And I would encourage, if we have any rural libraries out there, rural hospitals, please make sure that you include these links on your website, because it's all about the access after all.
Absolutely.
And you can't benefit from it if you don't know about it, which is what I like about this program so much, because instead of people going somewhere, you're meeting people where they are.
Absolutely. And I'm really appreciative, Michelle, that you brought up the website and the site finder. Our website is fns.usda.gov/summer, and you'll get information about all the programs we're talking about today. And we do have this, what I think is a terrific tool called a site finder, that you can write in a location or even a specific address, and it will show you where there are sites that have SUN meals, so that where the programs where kids come together. and where we have Sun Meals to Go, where there are delivery or pickup options. And to your point about challenges perhaps with broadband access, et cetera, I echo your call for libraries, other points of entry to make sure that they're aware of that. Tell folks when they come in. I'll also mention that we did try very hard to design the website and the site finder in a way that it is more user friendly sometimes than they are on mobile phones than it has been in the past. So it's a really good resource, and I hope that lots of folks will take a look.
Yeah, and then also, if we really could quick touch on, if we have listeners out there who say, hey, we could potentially be a site, I'm sure they can navigate their way to that information as well.
Absolutely right. Yeah, the program. It's a really good point. The programs actually are operated at the state level in terms of the daily, nitty gritty operations, and you can find the information about where in your state to look on the website.
Okay, so we know at the very basic level, it's not hard to understand how much good nutrition is a part. I mean, it's just essential for health. Food is health, and there's a big movement about this today. Can you talk just a little bit about the social and emotional benefits of the Sun Meals group? We know it's something that you've been doing for almost a year now, as you said. Let's talk a little bit about where you see the social and emotional benefits. And then I want to just talk about the Sun grocery benefits as well, because why leave anybody out of this conversation?
Absolutely. Well, honestly, I think that if you speak to anyone who works in a school, for example, they will tell you how important it is for kids to be well nourished. And as we were sort of talking about before, how much so many kids really depend on getting those nutritious meals at school. And it's important to remember that, those meals they get at school, they are real substantial meals with strong nutrition standards. And so kids need them to be, ready to learn while they're in school. There's plenty of research to show that good nutrition during the school day contributes to academic performance. It reduces behavior challenges, reduces absenteeism. Now, in the summertime, kids aren't in school, but what you'll also hear from anyone who works in a school is about the summer slump or the summer dip, and which means that when kids come back in the fall, there's a lot of time that's spent getting them back up to speed. And certainly it is true that if a child hasn't been well nourished, if the family's been under stress, to put meals on the table consistently and to put healthy meals on the table during the summer, that is absolutely going to contribute to, that whole challenge with summer slump and make it even harder for that child to get back in the groove and to be, ready to learn and move on to the next level.
And so real quick talk on the Sunbucks program and the benefits at grocery stores. Who is eligible?
Absolutely.
How does that work?
So Sunbucks is the third piece in our toolbox, and it is an extraordinary opportunity. And that's one that is starting this summer. Okay. We are now states that are participating in Sunbucks are able to provide a grocery card, an EBT card, to families with $120 of benefits for every child who is eligible for free or reduced price meals. Okay. It is potentially a game changer. We estimate that in the states that are running the program this summer, we are going to be able to reach 21 million children. And that is just this summer, the first summer that the program's operating. So it is an extraordinary opportunity to fight summer hunger. You talked before about eligibility. I want to stress again, any child who is eligible for a free or reduced price meal can get these benefits. It's meant to fill the gap. And the other great thing about the eligibility is many kids, those kids that are on SNAP or in some states Medicaid or another means-tested program, they will automatically get this card. And for those families that don't participate in other programs but do get free or reduced price school meals, they will be able to apply through a brief and simple application that either their state or possibly their school will make available this summer.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because I hear very often in the space that I work in my other life is that even though there is eligibility, there is, for whatever reason, whether it's roadblocks to access or roadblocks that are tied to emotional and social matters about just navigating these programs. And it seems to me that this is one that you've done as much as you can think of right now to ensure that those kinds of barriers are no longer a factor.
Yeah, absolutely. And we really appreciate partners like you, Michelle, that are helping us get the word out, helping people understand that it is a new program and it always takes time for people to become aware and understand what it's all about. So we really appreciate you all spreading the word, because again, it is meant to be available to every single family who has a child that has a free or reduced priced child in the school. So huge opportunity.
Absolutely. And as you've mapped out, you've got timelines and milestones aiming to, and this is the best goal ever, which is to end childhood summer hunger. And of course, that only can happen if you have full participation, full, like unfettered participation. And so let's talk just real quickly about that goal. I mean, how do we get that across the finish line in some of the places where it's not eligible? Do you have any words of wisdom you can share about how folks can advocate?
Right. It is not easy to stand up an entirely new program. And we are really pleased that right now it's changing every day, but I think we have between 40 and 45 states, territories, and Indian tribal organizations who can also operate this, that are planning to run the program this current summer. And so, I am really confident that we are going to see a lot of success and folks will see the benefit here. And those states that either weren't able to or didn't see the value of standing up this program this summer will reconsider that for next year. USDA and the Biden administration is here to help and support. We have a lot of resources. As you said, we've worked really hard on our website. It's a great place to start. And we have worked hand in hand intensely with every state that wanted to operate all three of these programs. And we will absolutely continue doing that because we would love to see more folks pick up the Sunbucks program next summer.
Well, we will most certainly do our part and get this content out there. Cindy Long, Administrator of USDA Food and Nutrition Services. I mean, we say it all the time. These are not light subjects. Food insecurity in children is not, but certainly what you've shared is enlightening. And we hope that our listeners really take it to heart and get curious and learn about it. As I said, we'll put it up on the website. And so again, my thanks to you for joining us on The Rural Impact. You are welcome back anytime you've got news like this.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Okay, this is a Rural Impact Extra, and you're going to hear from us very soon on a new episode of The Rural Impact. Until then, take good care of yourself and each other. We'll see you soon.
What's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear rural? Is it agriculture, recreation, country, or maybe even elections? Rural can't be defined by one word, one place, or one population. However, we can connect the dots between rural quality of life and policy. And that's what the Rural Impact is on a mission to do. If your organization advocates for rural policies that contribute to thriving rural communities, we invite you to join our partner network. By joining us, you can tap into a wealth of resources, expertise, and a network of like-minded organizations. Discover how we can help you expand your rural reach and share your impact. Visit theruralimpact.com to connect with us. That's theruralimpact.com.